Hello, bonjour, namaste, ni hao, and ohio, everybody. What is going on? It is Gail here. Welcome back to the YouTube channel once again for another Danmachi light novel video. And today we are here with a side story. Of course, this side story came alongside the release of Oratoria Volume 15. And I want to go over it because, of course, one, it gives us more of an insight into eyes. And number two, it also kind of links back into, of course, what we read in Volume 15. Now, of course, if you haven't already checked out the Volume 15 spoiler compilation, be sure to check it out. It's a 1 hour long video, so it's a lot of information to digest. I would recommend, taking breaks when you're watching that video. It was uploaded yesterday, so go check it out, of course, right? But I wanted to go over this one because I think it's very, very cool, very wholesome and sweet, but also towards the end, it becomes a little bit darker. So I want to talk about it. I want to go over it as well. And the other reason why I'm doing it is to explain to you guys what these short stories are, and I'm going to start off with that because a lot of you guys may not even be aware that these short stories exist. And the funny thing is, a lot of these short stories are actually canonical. We will be getting our first set of short stories in English for the very first time later this year, of course, right? We're going to be getting compilations in February and in June, if I'm not mistaken. I will be reviewing them. I will be talking about them, so don't you worry about that. But this is something that a lot of people actually don't know about. So what happens is that with every Japanese release of these light novels, right, effectively each shopping platform that this book goes on to, some of the key ones at least, right? So say, for example, in the US or in the UK, for example, you have Amazon, you have Barnes and Noble, you have Waterstones, you have so many of these, book shops basically, right? And so what they do is that when they're supplying to these bookshops, right, each shop gets their own short story as a special pre-order bonus. So basically you can choose which shop you want to go to and get that short story potentially, because each shop might get a different one. Say, for example, one might feature one with Ryu and Belle, one might feature one with Belle and Eyes, one might feature Belle and Hayden, or Hayden and Ryu, and different combinations of characters. Basically, they always provide these combinations a bit ahead of time so that you are aware of which short story you're going to be potentially getting, with what characters it's going to be focused on. And so, of course, the one that we have right here is Eyes and Belle. Today we're going to be taking a look at an Eyes and Belle short story. Of course, the person who got their light novel and is obviously getting us the translations and everything, of course, right, has the one with Eyes and Belle. So we're going to be taking a look at that. And of course, like I said, once we get the compilation, of course, of short stories and everything, I will be making a video on that as well. And let me know in the comment section down below if you guys would like me to try and find the other short stories as well. I can do my best to try and find them. It's not too difficult to find them, but I would have to go back in time and look at all of the ones, that are present. So yeah, keep that in mind. There are a lot of short stories, and these are canonical, by the way. These actually do happen. It's just happening during the downtimes or like during other times where, of course, we're not focusing on it in the main story and the Sword Oratoria story, right? So just keep that in mind. Now, of course, if you guys going to enjoy this video, remember to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. We're close to 4,000 subscribers. My throat is gone. Yesterday's video took a lot out of me, I'm not gonna lie, but do subscribe. Of course, we're close to 4,000 subscribers. And of course, let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think about this short story? Do you guys think it's sweet, wholesome? Do you guys think that it gives you any indications of some theories you may have towards what might happen later down the line? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'm curious to see what you guys have to say down below. Now let's go over it, right? So basically, this is all from Eyes' perspective, okay? The short story is called Does Eyes Wallenstein Dream with White Rabbits? And it is entirely from Eyes' perspective. The entire section is from Eyes' perspective. So the first part of the story, and the first literally like first 3-4 lines, is literally about a guide on how to make a white rabbit sleep on your lap. So it's first is knock him out first, gently lift his head, and then put him slowly on your lap. And then from the first page, it's Belle's Training. It's basically what we've seen in Danmachi Volume 20 and Oratoria Volume 15 during that chapter where Eyes is training Belle, right? It's basically that chapter from Eyes' perspective, but from a more emotional aspect. It's a lot more emotional. It's a lot more feelings based. It's a lot more internal for Eyes from this point onwards. You also see Chibi Eyes back again in Eyes' head, trying to prompt, actual eyes to keep giving lap pillows to Belle. She's talking about, she's raising placards saying no violence, and so on and so forth. So it's pretty cool in that sense, of course, right? Of course, I love chibi eyes. Every time you see chibi eyes, it just adds a lot more to, general eyes, in my opinion. And it's something I really hope that if we do get Sword Oratoria, the anime, back again, it would be amazing to see that happen, right? To see chibi eyes still in the series, right? Second page is, of course, Eyes reflecting on how she likes Belle's soft hair and how training with Belle makes her happy, and she wishes that moment lasted forever as well. And then third page is Eyes knows from memory Belle's way of waking up from being unconscious. Also Belle wakes up, so she realizes like how the telltale signs of how Belle wakes up, and then of course how there's a repeating pattern of how it all happens, right? So Belle immediately wakes up, jolts out of her lap, goes away, then she pats on her lap to come to tell him to come back there. He doesn't, so she pats on her side, and then he comes to her side, and then there's always like a half a person gap between them always, and she's so used to it now that she remembers the exact way that goes. So it's always it's cool to see that Eyes is, as I said, with this light novel, and of course with volume 15, and of course, to be honest, ever since volume 12, Sword Oratoria volume 12, as well as just generally, I would say the Xeno stuff more so than anything else, Eyes' emotions have been more on a surface level, to be honest, which is very, very good. Again, as always, it's amazing to see Eyes' emotions come to the surface as well as it has, of course, right? Now, obviously, there are still moments where she's the usual Eyes, emotionless and everything, but as time has gone on, as she spent more time with Belle, more time with her own familiar as well and everything, it's just generally she's come out of her shell, which is fantastic to see, of course, right? And again, that's the development side of things, of course, right? Fourth page, Eyes thinks of forcing Belle to stay on her lap, but decides against it because it may cause Belle to dislike her, and Chibi Eyes at this point gets very annoyed at her because of that. Belle then jumps, causing a small crater on the floor, and Eyes realizes that this is him becoming a first-class adventurer, and she congratulates him as well. And then Belle gets embarrassed, and Eyes smiles at the reaction. The next page goes on to basically Eyes and Belle sitting together on the wall, and then Eyes reflecting how they always have the same routine of training, lap pillow, and then time from time chatting together, basically. And Eyes, again, just like 6 months ago, wonders again how he's able to grow so fast. So this is where obviously there are parallels to the original times when Eyes was training Belle, the first season, second season stuff, basically, where Eyes asked him like how was he able to get so strong and stuff like that. And then in the 6th page, Eyes goes on to remember how she started training with the objective of finding out Belle's secret and to get it for herself so that she could get that sort of strength as well, right? But after the Minotaur incident, when, of course, Belle fought the Minotaur deep into it, of course, right? Deep into season 1, not the very first time. The second time in season 1, of course, right? Where Lily was injured, and then, of course, the Loki familiar was observing the fight and everything. She started doing it as both a way to apologize to Belle for trying to take advantage of him, and also because she is enjoying it. Eyes already knows Belle's answer is going to be the same thing as last time, but and I will come on to one more thing in that it's not only just that one reason anymore. He's also added a couple more reasons. So we'll talk about that in a second. So he has someone he wants to reach. That's one of the answers he gives Eyes, and Eyes notes that Belle is more decided about it this time. He's more dedicated to it. Eyes reflects how Belle hasn't changed that much and how she wishes, and I quote, "Please don't change," Eyes thought, even if she knew it was a little egotistical. Belle also added that he has made more promises, mentioning how he has promised that a certain someone that they would see the sky again. Eyes realizes he's talking about the Xenoses and remembers their confrontation. So again, this kind of comes back to what we discovered in the What If a year ago or a year and a half ago at this point. And that is, of course, the fact that Galeriot Freese is no longer just about Eyes. It is primarily about Eyes. I should keep that clear and, clear cut to you guys, and that it is still about Eyes primarily. But the importance of the Xenoses has gone up as well, and the Xenoses are also on Belle's radar in his Galeriot Freese. And Amori is counting that, it seems like, for sure. And it kind of doubles down on the fact that if he breaks any of the three promises between, obviously, the likes of the Xenoses, the Shreyas, and also Eyes, Liaris Freeze is very likely to break. So keep that in mind, and that those are three very important factors that we need to keep in mind to, of course, Belle's development via Liaris Freeze, of course, right? So just keep that in mind, of course. Eyes reflects on how the prospect of Belle wanting to become stronger for a monster doesn't make her jealous, and how it doesn't surprise her. How the Loki family has decided to accept the existence of the Xenoses, and how she has done it too, because the thought of accepting monsters didn't affect her as much as the thought of her and Belle falling out. So goes to show again how much Belle has become important to Eyes as well over time. Eyes is also surprised that Belle decided to trust her with telling her about that promise, but doesn't mention it out loud. Still, Belle understands Eyes' expression and tells her that he doesn't mind that she knows, and Eyes is surprised that Belle was able to understand. Again, this is the development, and this is what I mean, like, Amori, the thing is, Amori should have probably put this in the main story, in all honesty. In reality, I think having this in the main story would have been so much better, because then, you know, we would have actually seen it as well, you know, when it's translated into the anime or manga or whatever, right? Because these short stories aren't necessarily being adapted, right? They're not being shown to us in the anime, and so it becomes a bit of a struggle in seeing what the development between Belle and Eyes is. I've seen a lot of people on Reddit and stuff commenting like how, you know, Eyes and Belle don't make sense anymore and stuff like that, and I'm like, it still does, okay? First and foremost, it still does. At the end of the day, Belle's first objective was always Eyes, even from the very beginning of the season. No matter the case, a lot of people say like, oh, the prologue doesn't matter, that happened over 10 years ago, but that's the foundation of Danmachi and Belle. Basically, that is how he is what he is now. Without Eyes, he's nothing, basically. Let's not get it twisted, okay? Without Eyes, Belle is not going to be Belle anymore, in the sense of the strength he has, the abilities he has, the level he is now. That wouldn't be the case without Eyes. So it's not fair to say that the prologue doesn't matter. That being said, though, I do agree to an extent in that I do wish Amori had done a better job with, you know, portraying Eyes a lot more in the season. Of course, I understand his perspective of like, there's too much of a power difference between the two, at least in the initial like volumes 1 to at least 14, right? You know, there's just too much of a power gap between the two. Eyes would solve every single one of Belle's issues very easily. But that being said, though, I do think that he could have still implemented it in some way, shape, or form, like via the training methods and stuff, right? Just like how he has done the training, there could have been other places where he could have also done more like that, or just even via the training. Like this entire conversation should have probably been in Danmachi Volume 20 or Oratoria Volume 15, one of the two, in my opinion. And that would have been amazing. In all honesty, it would have been amazing to have that. Okay, we are moving on to the next part, where basically the person making the spoiler compilation says they didn't get the beginning of the page, but Eyes is asking Belle how he was able to understand her, which makes him quite flustered, and he struggles to answer. So this isn't actually what the thing is in the MTL, at least, right? Of course, you know, again, there might be discrepancies between the MTL and what people are translating and stuff like that, but based on what the MTL is saying, and I think it makes a little bit more sense on what the MTL is saying, is that basically Eyes asks Belle whether she or he, sorry, understands her more so. Not that, you know, oh, how is Belle able to understand her? She just asks him, do you understand me more so? And Belle gets quite flustered and doesn't have really much of an answer. And at this point, Eyes is thinking that this is the reason why everybody in the Loki familia and, you know, everybody else, generally speaking, thinks she's a bit of an airhead or naive in that sense. But Belle immediately recovers and says that while, you know, she doesn't, while he doesn't understand Eyes as much as, you know, Tiona and the others may do, he wants to get to know her better, you know. And at this point, Eyes is surprised by this, and they have a little bit of a flushing competition. They both start blushing a little bit, both of their cheeks start getting warm, and it's pretty cool in that sense. It's a little bit more of a sort of like I said, it's one of those cute and wholesome interactions between, you know, does she love me, does she not love me, does he love me, does he not love me kind of interactions, with both characters not knowing that this is love, kind of, in a way, which is kind of funny to say the least in that sense, right? So when Eyes blushes, Belle blushes as well, and then when he raises his head, he looks Eyes in the eyes, nice one there. She starts feeling happy, embarrassed, surprised, and emotional all at the same time, and wants to jump from happiness. Belle smiles in his funny way, and laughs and asks him to tell her about himself, that is to say. So Eyes is asking to tell Belle more about himself in that sense, and Belle asks what she wants to know about him in that sense, and then she immediately goes on the offense. Who's better, her or the other teachers that taught Belle? And Belle's like, huh? At this point, what? Eyes wonders about Belle's other teachers, and I quote, both blonde elves, literally emphasized. Small reflection about how even after growing up, Eyes is still nothing like when she was a child, when she only thought about fighting and nothing else. Belle screams and tries to avoid the question entirely again by saying that each of them are different and that each has their own good point. He mentions Eyes and Ryu by their name and of course gives Hayden the master title. And then Eyes is wanting Belle to call her master as well because she was the first one to teach him. But then Belle's like, no, I can't call you master because I have too many bad memories of what happened every time he gets into a fighting mode basically. And then Eyes is like, okay, if you want to call me master as well, then we'll also fight more even. And Belle's like, no, that's not what I mean. That's not what I need. I don't want that to happen. I'm okay on this front, Belle's saying basically. So it was quite a funny kind of a moment at that point because it's just like you can see how scared Belle is of Hayden first and foremost, and number two, how Eyes is so competitive to be the best master for Belle basically, you know, trying to be in that first position for Belle basically, and wants to be called master as well by Belle to show like, you know, she is the actual teacher. Belle then tries to de-escalate the situation, but Eyes pouts and gets even more competitive, and then Eyes goes all out against Belle, and Belle ends up unconscious. And again, lap pillow time, baby. Lap pillow time comes back again. And now this is where things get a little bit darker and a little bit more serious, okay? So Eyes reflects on Belle wanting to know more about her and how that, and I quote, he says, makes her feel warm. She's also scared of telling him more. She's scared of him finding about the black flame and about how they are different, possibly referring to being a half spirit. Again, this is the whole thought process and theory that we have going on in terms of like, you know, how did Eyes come to fruition in the first place? You know, a human spirit combining half spirit. What the hell's going on with Eyes? You know, what's her constitution in terms of like, what is she effectively, right? Eyes then starts talking to the sleeping Belle, asking him that if he knew about her, would he stay the same? If he would still train with her, and I quote, would he stay with her? And Eyes then remembers the day where the OEBD attacked her and her family and asks Belle one last question. Can you save me? And then we have a change of scene and it comes back to the present timeline where of course Eyes has been absorbed and is being eaten, if you want to call it that, by the corrupted spirit, that is to say. And she's currently asking for help still, and yet there was no answer to be found. The answer that Eyes desired was nowhere to be found. However, in response to the movement of Eyes' fingers tracing their face, the boy, as if in sync with him, made the slightest movement and gave a small nod. It felt that like that. Even if it was just an illusion for Eyes, that was enough. And even the spirit at this point, the spirit is asking her in a very screaming way, what are you dreaming of, Arya? And it's getting serious because Eyes is not having a good time, clearly, right? Her body is decaying. There's a crack in her in the ice shell, it seems like, as well. It's getting closer and closer to where she's going to be fully absorbed. It seems like there's still an opportunity for obviously the likes of Finn and everybody else to save her, but we're getting close to a point where probably she's going to be unsavable even. And so now this is the point where it ends, basically. This is where it ends, of like with them mentioning the crack in the ice. And so yeah, this was a bit darker because of like, of course, towards the end of the whole situation happening and everything, right? And showing like, you know, Eyes is begging to be saved. And the funny thing is as well, or I should say funny thing is not a funny thing. She's actually not able to remember the person at all. She's not able to remember Belle at all at this point. So her body is actively like losing track of what she is, who she is, where she is, and what's happening to her even as well. She's just obviously in immense amounts of pain and being controlled, of course, right? So of course, I think this is obviously going to be the lead into, of course, what we're going to be getting in volume 21 and volume 16 as well of the main series and Sword Oratoria. But yeah, it looks awesome. I'm very, very excited for, of course, what's going to be coming up. But I really like this side story. I think it was very sweet, very cute, very wholesome, of course, right? And I know a lot of people will really like this. Of course, I think the Eyes fans will absolutely adore this. So yeah, I'm glad that they've done this. Again, I wish it was in the main story and not a side story. But yeah, because I think this would have connected really well in terms of this as well, in terms of the main story. And especially this could have been like a sort of like as an add-on to the epilogue, maybe, you know, this part basically where you know, Eyes, it goes back in time a little bit and goes back, like, say for example, right? So we have all of this, right, being the in the main story in volume 20 or volume 15, or in volume 15 would have been probably a little bit better maybe. And then of course this part would have been probably at the end of the epilogue, once, you know, you know, it says Lafia and Belle are launching the counter attack, right? Once that's sorted out, once that's mentioned, the next thing that they mention or the next thing that they show is they go back in time, show the scene, and then you come back to the scene where of course she's asking to be saved. That would have been ending on a high note, to be honest. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of this side story. I think it was very, very cute, like I said, very wholesome, and quite an interesting story to have from Eyes' perspective. Gives us a little bit more of an indication of just how Eyes' personality is right now, along with the fact that, you know, what situation she's in, you know, bringing her past to her present effectively. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take it easy, everybody. Bye bye.